Hey, welcome back to that 70s card show. I'm your host, John Keating, and I thank you for joining me as I take a look back at the cards and the culture of the very colorful 1970s. We'll revisit a more simple time in our hobby by taking a deep dive into the sets and the stats with a generous amount of dad facts sprinkled in. That 70s card show is currently sponsored by nobody. If you have a comment or suggestion, I urge you to drop me a line at that 70s card show at gmail.com, that 70s card show on YouTube, or 70s card on Twitter. Episode 41. Well, we've made it to episode 41, and we're going to talk about a set that came onto our shores in the year 1979. Before we get to that, we will want to talk briefly about my past week. Obviously, we had the Super Bowl on Sunday. Enjoyed watching that as well as the halftime show. I think there was something there for everybody. A decent game. I don't think it was a great game. I thought it was a good game. I thought it was a better than good halftime show. But obviously, I'm showing my age. Not a rap fan from the womb, but I've come to appreciate the older stuff the older I get myself. Busy week last week. I started out in New York, back to Philadelphia, on to Chicago, then back to Philadelphia, and in New York, where Thursday night I had the pleasure of chatting with Mike Summer from Wax Pack Hero podcast, and I believe he also puts his stuff on YouTube as well, at least the audio. Mike is a wonderful podcast host. He's a hobbypreneur, has his own shop, as a side hustle, pretty much knows a lot about a lot of different things in the hobby. So he's on ComC, he's on Sports Lots, he's all over the place. A fan of many different genres of our sport, and that word genre he uses in his intro, which I really appreciate. I love hearing him say that every time he does say that. Mike Summer is his podcast is educational. It's to the point. It's brief. It's eloquent. It's essentially everything I am not. So hopefully we can all listen to that episode in the very near future. So thank you, Mike, for having me Thursday night. 16-hour day for me on Friday up in New York. Then in the middle of all this stuff, midweek on, I saw something on Facebook Marketplace. 10 cards for sale. And they had a price. And I asked the seller on Marketplace, this was Facebook Marketplace, if you could cut me a deal, I'd appreciate it, because I'd be coming down from New York, down the Garden State Parkway to Wildwood, New Jersey, which is what we call the Shore. And many of you will be visiting the Shore this summer, perhaps for the first time when you go to the National in Atlantic City. Enjoy the Shore, everybody. I think I'll be there myself. Anyway, down the Shore and then back to Philadelphia would have been a pretty long drive for me, essentially like a 5-hour drive to get these 10 cards. So I asked for a break. The gal on the other end said, if they're still available this weekend, we'll revisit. So Friday night, I got a message from her. Her and her husband were selling these cards, and they would cut me a break, about a 10% discount on the cards. And off I went 5 a.m. on Saturday morning, a pre-dawn departure from Manhattan, again down the Turnpike to the Garden State Parkway and to Wildwood, New Jersey. Got there right around when the sun was coming up over the Atlantic Ocean. Met at a Acme, as we say here, an Acme supermarket, and the happy couple approached in their, the gentleman was in his pajama pants, Redskins pajama pants, pushing a little dog in a stroller, and presented me with the 10 cards. I gave them the cash. It wasn't a lot of money considering what I got in return, but we chit-chatted. This gentleman had been a collector most of his life, and apparently his dog was having some medical issues. He was having some work hour shortages at the place he worked, so he's looking to raise a little capital. So I ended up with 10 cards. I'm going to go in reverse order here real quick. 69 Hank Aaron, which I already have 2 of. None of them are in great condition, but the one I got, probably a 4 maybe. 67. I got a 67 Clemente, a 67 Mays, and a 67 Drunk Uncle Mickey Mantle. I already have the Mickey Mantle, so I'll probably get that slabbed and perhaps sell that thing to somebody. The Clemente is in great shape. The Mays is in probably a 4 or 5. Working our way back to 1961, I believe. 1961, I got a Sandy Koufax and a Willie Mays 61. 62 was a 1960, I got a Stan Musial and a Hank Aaron. 1960, the Stan Musial had some wrinkles in it, probably the worst out of the bunch, probably a 2 or 3 at the most. So there's that. 55 Bowman Roy Campanella, probably in a 4 to 5 range, and a 33 Gowdy Bud Cantwell. So if I'm counting that right, which I'm probably not, I'm sure I left out something. But anyway, I was happy with that. It was 10 cards. Couldn't be happier with that purchase. Came out to around $40 a card. So maybe you guys can do the math on the side there. Not bad haul. 10 vintage cards. If I'm not mistaken, yeah, that's 10 vintage cards. So anyway, lucky me, happy me, all that stuff. So Saturday home, Sunday Super Bowl, pretty lonely Super Bowl, just my wife and I watching, which is the first time that's happened probably in forever. So here I am, finished up all my schoolwork last night, taking 3 college courses, so that can add up as well. On to 1979, shall we? So 1979, we're not going to get into any dad facts here, but we're going to talk about a set that I touched on in my one of my first episodes of this year, the goals episode, and that was about Pele. And I planned on featuring this set a little bit more, the 1979 Venorlandus Our Heroes World of Sports set, or World of Sport Our Heroes Flick Cards set, whatever you want to call it. It's kind of got a convoluted name, and the Venorlandus part is I believe the printer or manufacturer. The World of Sport part is a show that was on ITV, independent television in England network, and it was essentially Britain's version of Wide World of Sports. I think it ran from 1968 to 1985. Featured, rather ordinary sports that the British would be into, such as soccer and tennis and boxing and stuff like that. Big on wrestling, apparently back in the day, and other oddball sports that are obviously English-centric or Brit-centric sports, such as snooker, darts, and barrel jumping and stuff like that. So World of Sport was a pretty fun watch. Apparently it was on about 6-7 hours on a Saturday, and a lot of it was live, and it was hosted by a gentleman named Dick Davies. And so it was pretty long run there on ITV. And so in 1978, I guess they came up with the idea to put this World of Sport flick cards set together, featuring our heroes. A little bit of a blurb in Beckett. Not a lot is known about this set because I don't know whether it's lack of demand or just they did a real good job of keeping everything secret. But according to Beckett, this thing was issued in England. Not quite sure how. 48 card set measures approximately 1 5/8 by 2.5 inches and features caricatures on the front. The backs have biological information, as well as a brief biography of the featured athlete. There are 48 cards in this set, and this set came with a book. So I said I was briefly touched on this with my episode about Pele. I was in the middle of a auction when I was on the cusp of recording that episode, so I decided not to talk about it as much as perhaps I should have. But cut to the chase, I lost the auction. And then a day or two later, I saw a buy it now from overseas in England, and I pounced on it, and it was substantially less than what the final auction price was for the set that I missed out on. And it included this little book right here. So let me see if I can bring that up on my thing. Pretty happy about that. Came with the book, and this book, as if you're watching on YouTube, this book was essentially kind of like the sticker books that Panini put out. Front cover says Flick Cards, has our guy Dick Davies dressed in training pants and boots, as they call them over there, which are basically sweatpants and cleats, and kind of has all the logos on there for World of Sport, for our heroes, and for Flick Cards. The cards themselves are real great pieces of artwork by, let's see what that guy's name is. There is a guy named, I think it's Tim, Tim Holder is his name. And I tried to find out more information about Tim Holder. If you Google his name, Tim Holder artist, you'll find a lot of the same kind of caricature portraits and lithographs for sale. But that's not what this is about. This is about the athletes, right? So this is a 48 card set, and if you, it's got some buttes in here too. I don't know of too many sets here that have the absolute best of the best, meaning the greatest of all time in their sports, especially at that time. And there's no arguing that this set contained that. Now, like I said, it's kind of Brit-centric with a lot of the athletes, but the GOATs are known worldwide, and they are on display here. Features, again, 48 cards. The first three are boxers: Henry Cooper, Alan Minter, and Muhammad Ali. Next two are Formula One racers. The next three, Formula One racers: John Conti, James Hunt, and Mario Andretti from Nazareth, PA. Then it features a Grand Prix motorcyclist, Barry Sheen, and the eighth card is Peter Collins in a sport called Speedway, which from a distance looks like motorcycle racing, but it's essentially, I believe, Speedway is a motorcycle with one gear, and you're sliding around an oval track at breakneck speed. Next 10 cards feature soccer stars, and we'll get to the book in a minute, but the book actually lists them as soccer and not football. So, England fans tend to look down on the word soccer, but bam, it's right there in the book that they printed. Number 9 is Georgie Best, one of the absolute best. Ray Wilkins, number 11, is the greatest soccer player of all time, perhaps Pele. Peter Barnes from Manchester City is number 12. Peter Shilton, 13. Kevin Keegan, number 14. 15 is Trevor Booking. 16 is Kenny Dalglish. 17 is Cyril Regis. 18 is Sir Bobby Charlton. 19 is Johan Cruyff from the Netherlands. Johan Cruyff's influence today is still felt throughout the soccer world. In Barcelona and Manchester, Pep Guardiola was a disciple of Johan Cruyff when Johan Cruyff managed Barcelona. And again, his influence is still felt throughout the soccer world. Next 6 players featured are golfers. And you'll probably know all these names if you've ever picked up a sports page in your life. Seve Ballesteros, Nick Faldo, Jack Nicklaus, of course, the greatest golfer of all time, according to Major Wins. Tom Watson, Gary Player, and Lee Trevino. So some heavy hitters right there throughout. Then rugby is featured with J.P.R. Williams and Gareth Edwards. We go to jockey cards. There's 3 jockey cards. John Joe O'Neill. One of my favorite English idiosyncrasies is when they put the name John and Joe back to back. John Joe. There's a guy named John Joe Shelby out there in the Premier League, and I get a little giggle every time I hear it. There's never a Joe John. It's always a John Joe. Willie Carson and Lester Pigot is your third jockey. 3 show jumpers there. Apparently those Brits love their show jumpers. Eddie Mackin, David Broom, and Harvey Smith are your 3 show jumpers. Then we move on to 6 cricket players. Yep, that's 6 of them, folks. Ian Bottom, Mike Brearley, David Gower, Viv Richards, Jeff Boycott, and Bob Willis. We have a shot putter at Jeff Capes, and Steve Ovett is they're both listed as athletics, but Steve Ovett is a 800 and 1500 meter racer. Steve Ovett, I believe, won the Olympic gold in the boycotted 1980 Olympics in Moscow. And then we have Olga Korbut and Ludmila Turisheva, 2 gymnastics athletes who I believe each won 3 or 4 gold medals in their time in the 70s for the Soviet Union. And then we finish off with five, count them, tennis players, Jimmy Connors, Virginia Wade, Bjorn Borg, and John Lloyd and Chris Evert. Of course, Chris Evert married John Lloyd, Chris Evert Lloyd. John Lloyd was probably the black sheep of this little gang, considering he really didn't do much. Everybody else was a champion. Tennis in the 70s was pretty wild. I know that's might seem odd to say that, but McEnroe and Bjorg and Connors and Arthur Ashe, and on the ladies' side you had Billie Jean King and Martina Navratilova and Chris Evert. There was really some great matches you could catch on a Saturday and a Sunday back in the 70s on your television. I don't know. I enjoyed watching them. So anyway, so that's that. I'm going to flick through these cards a little bit here. And again, I just gave the order of their appearance. Boxers are boxing. Racers are posing with their helmets. All this is original artwork. None of this was copied from pictures and whatnot. So soccer players look pretty wild going through their things. Pele card I love. The Ali card I love, obviously. Bobby Charlton is famous for having a wicked comb over, and that was apparent on his card. He played for Manchester United. Golfers. The golfers are mid-swing. Gary Player celebrating. Looks like Jack Nicklaus is chipping. Tom Watson's dressed in a wonderful hat that matches his drawers. Yeah, just good-looking cards. Then we move on to Lee Trevino. Big smile on his face. Then the rugbyists, the jockeys look like they're jockeying, and obviously the well-dressed show jumpers. Cricket players, most of them are displayed as batsmen, 2 pitchers and 4 batsmen. Shot putter, Steve Ovett crossing a line, and then the Soviet gymnasts in their red, and then the tennis, all depicted probably on grass courts, considering that was what was done in England. The Bjorn Borg card looks awesome. Typical headband on Bjorn Borg. So great looking set. Maybe I'll go over a couple of the cards here. We can see the Ian Botham card right there. He's pitching in his rugby setup right there. Great looking card. Chrissy Everett Lloyd, or Chrissy Everett at this point, or Chris Everett, I guess. And we can see Tim Holder's autograph there on the bottom right. Really good looking watercolor, pastel-y. I know this isn't an art show, but they're good looking cards. I get a big kick out of them. Let's look at the back of Jack Nicklaus's card. Maybe we can read that aloud. If you're watching at home. So it says here, Our Heroes Flick Cards, a series of 48, number 22, Jack Nicklaus, born January 21st, 1940. So Jack Nicklaus was not yet 40 years old when this card came out. And of course, he's from Columbus, Ohio. Zodiac sign, Aquarius. Interesting on the back of a sports card. And his bio says Jack Nicklaus has won the U.S. Open 3 times, 1961, 1967, 1972. And the British Open 3 times, 1966, 1970, and 1978. He has won the U.S. Masters 5 times and the U.S. PGA 4 times. Known as the Golden Bear, Nicklaus is classed as the greatest golfer ever. Yeah, that's what the English say, I guess. He has earned in excess of $3 million on the U.S. tour, where no other has topped $2 million. $3 million he's earned on the U.S. tour, it says here, and that's career up to that point in his career. Pretty crazy, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, prize money for a single tournament probably approaches, if not exceeds, that at this point. Back of the card has the World of Sport logo prominently displayed across the bottom, and then the bottom says, the very bottom says Venorlandus Limited, 77 Broadway Market, London, E8. So these cards were not sanctioned by the athletes portrayed. They were not sanctioned by any governing body, and they certainly weren't sanctioned by any sporting club or league. Any kind of depiction, and I think we'll get into that in a little bit. I'll read a little blurb from the back of the book in a minute here, and we'll see exactly what they're talking about and how they limit their liability, as we say. The Pele card, I love the Pele card. He's dressed in, even though we're not talking, even though these cards are unsanctioned, he's still dressed in his native yellow with green trim football jersey and blue pants, smiling away, dribbling the ball down the field. Muhammad Ali card is a very popular card, graded in a 9 or 10. It goes for quite a lot of money. And it's depicting the greatest, as his waistband says. He's got, instead of boxing gloves, he's got bees for hands. He's got a bee coming out of his mouth or going into his mouth. And he's got little butterflies on his boxing shoes. He floats like a butterfly and stings like a bee. Again, his Ali card is pretty popular in the collecting world. I like it myself too. Haven't decided whether I'm going to get that and the Pele card graded. I like to grade my cards for safekeeping. So I also don't want to break up a set. It's hard to break up a set and pull 2 cards out of it to get graded. They won't fit back in the little sleeves, will they? So I'm going to read a little bit from the back of Ali's bio. And he is number 3. Muhammad Ali, born Cassius Clay, of course, January 17th, 1942, in Louisville, Kentucky, USA, zodiac sign, Capricorn, of course. For those of you who are astrologists, that is a cusp sign. That is, he was born on the cusp, as they would say. As Aquarius, the house of Aquarius, would come into effect a few days after January 17th. I know that only because I was born January 22nd. Anyway, just 5 years after Clay began boxing, he won the coveted Golden Gloves Award at age 17. At the Rome Olympics, he won the light heavyweight gold medal. In 1964, he became heavyweight champion of the world, changing his name to Muhammad Ali that year. He held the title until 1967, when he refused to fight in Vietnam on religious grounds. The title was relinquished for 3 years. He won back the heavyweight title from George Foreman in 1974 and held it until February 1978, when he lost in an upset to Leon Spinks. He then won it for a third time, a record, on September 16, 1978, defeating Spinks in the return. Few would doubt he is the greatest boxer of all time. So if you're counting at home and you're almost out of fingers on your one hand, we got Ali, the greatest boxer up to that point. We have Pele, the greatest soccer player up to that point. We have, of course, we have Jack Nicklaus, the greatest golfer up to that point. And then all these other guys thrown in there too. I would beg to say that Olga Korbut at that point was probably one of the greatest gymnasts as well. Obviously, Nadia Comaneci would be running around there, but really, really some great athletes in this set. I'm going to flip through the pages here one more time, and maybe we can take a look at the fronts and the backs. Really, really, really good looking set here. I'm going to look at the book here. Now, the book, I believe the book was probably sold separately. It says 25 pence on the front. And has Ali again and Dick Davis, like I said, on the front. The back is a World of Sport. It says World of Sport is a London television production for the ITV network, published by Venorlandus Limited, 77 Broadway Market, E8 again. I call it Venorlandus because the only similar word I see to that in our language is tenor, and they're spelled the same way except for the first letter. So I'm going with tenor. Some may say Wiener, whatever, dog. Wiener sounds like you're telling a dirty joke in German. So what's really weird about this book is that it kind of tells you how to abuse your cards, okay? And I've always espoused that most of the world collected stickers and they're not they didn't collect cards, so they're kind of having to learn how to collect cards. And this is a good example right here because again, this is 1979, and by this point, most of us had realized that we shouldn't be abusing our cards. Sure, we flicked them and pitched them and stuff like that in the 70s, but we were kind of wising up to the fact that we probably shouldn't be tossing these things around like a rag doll. But right here on the first printed page, Dick Davies tells you to just throw these things around, and you can see a picture there of a androgynous English person with a shirt that says "I'm a flick card flicker," throwing the card in the air or throwing it to someone. So I'm going to read you a bit about what old Dick Davies has to say. It says, Dick Davies here with a great idea for filling in the odd moments when you aren't playing sport or watching World of Sport. In fact, here's a pastime for school, weekends, and rainy days. World of Sport has pleasure in presenting picture cards designed for the game of flicking. On pages 14 and 15 of this album are the rules for 4 different and challenging games. There's lots of fun to be had by collecting these cards. So, to add the excitement of flicking, you can make up a fine set of duplicates in this album. This is the first of a new series of 48 sporting caricatures by Tim Holder, and there are more to follow. So play the games and collect at the same time. So he's telling you to buy multiple versions so you can flick these things. And also, if you're looking in the book here, you can glue them into the pages. And the pages are broken down. It says World of Boxing, World of Wheels, World of Soccer. There's the soccer word I was telling you about earlier. World of Soccer Continue, World of Golf, World of Horses, World of Rugby. Let's see here. The tension's building. World of Cricket, World of Athletics, World of Athletics Continue. There was only 2 guys in athletics, so I don't know why they had to continue to the next page. And World of Tennis. So what's wild about this album is you could glue, and it tells you right there, attach your flick cards into the appropriate spaces of this album with a suitable paper glue. So get the glue out, glue these cards. Again, this is 1979. Glue these cards to this book, and at least they had the foresight to print next to the open space where you should glue your card, the back of the card, so you can read what you just glued into the page right next to it. So thankfully they did that. It says, because World of Sport flick cards are not normally available for purchase in complete sets of 48, the meaning of the full collection is much more. In the same way as old-fashioned cigarette cards, once distribution has stopped, there is much personal satisfaction in owning a high-quality and complete set. Eventually, and if current trends continue, the value of these may increase. So he's telling you, old Dick Davies, that you should glue your cards to this album in the hopes that the value of the cards increase. And on page 13 here, it has the checklist that I mentioned and that we went through, 48 of these athletes. Page 14 and 15 have demonstrations on how to flick these cards. Flicking cards as a game of fun and often great skill is not a new idea. Since the introduction of cigarette cards some 80 years ago, schoolboys and girls found there could be more fun than just straight swapping cards to complete their collection. Throughout the country, card flicking, just as marbles, became one of the most established games at school and at home. Just ask your dads and grandfathers about cigarette card flicking, and you might find yourselves with some interesting challengers. After the war, cards were phased out by the cigarette manufacturers, and the game of flicking disappeared gradually with the scarcity of cards. We now have great pleasure of reintroducing the game of card flicking with our attractive set of cards and hope you have hours of fun. Flick cards are thicker and slightly wider than the old cigarette cards to give the best flight. I beg to differ with you, Dick Davies. I flicked cards throughout the 70s. It's glad, you gave us the Beatles and we gave you card flicking back. So let's call that even. There are 4 different games you can play in here, the rules, stuff like that. So you can cover, you can nearest to the wall, you can play the wall game, or you can play dropsies. World of Sport flick cards are specifically or especially designed for the game. Only when flicked correctly will they cover the distance. The pictures on the right may help you achieve the best results, but remember, practice is important, and a skilled player will win more cards. These are believed to be the authentic rules of the original cigarette card flicking games. However, variations on rules are quite permissible, provided agreement exists between players. And then we're going to read a little bit more here. There's kind of a special offer on the back here that allows you to send in some of your cards, 10 flick cards, and a check for 75 pence to get bigger versions, 7 3/4 by 13 1/4. Of personalities, some personalities that are featured on the flick cards, and then a list of personalities that are not on the flick cards but are on these larger special offer large print cards. Some of those are Arnold Palmer and some other folks that most of you guys probably won't know. I'm going to read the disclaimer here, which is kind of interesting. So none of the sporting personalities depicted on the miniature cards, nor the clubs to which they belong, nor in the case of professional sportsmen or women, their managers or agents, have assisted in or received any financial or other reward in connection with the production of either the cards or this book. Furthermore, some of the players are drawn in clothing which is not necessarily their official or current clothing. The drawings are entirely original and not copies nor copied directly from any single photograph. Whilst we shall endeavor to read all your letters, it is regretted that we shall not be able to enter into any correspondence. World of Sport flick cards are specifically provided for the game of flicking, and while ensuring that all are available, we are unable to supply specific cards by request through the post. At the time of going to press, details and information published were believed to be correct. So that's how you cover your tail in over there in Blighty. You just tell people that we think we're right, what we just said. So one more thing here to follow up. There was a blog posted April 21st, 2016, which happened to be my 16th anniversary, from a gentleman who said he was happy to pick up 2 cards from ComC very cheaply. Mario Andretti, World of Sport, Our Heroes Flick Cards number 6. This was this author of this blog's second favorite driver. And that wise old sage was Kin Kinsley from Bean's Ball Card blog. So, again, like I say, heavily researched, poorly executed. That's my motto for my podcast. Kin, I found you. Hopefully you still have those cards, or at least one of them. I'm sure I'll hear from you, and it's good to know that you and I are like Eskimo buddies now. We both have Mario Andretti. Venorlandus, World of Sport, Our Heroes Flick Cards. So that's episode 41. And again, I ordered that set from England. First time I've ever ordered anything overseas from eBay. It took a while to get here, but boy, it was worth it. It was packed within 3 or 4 different packages. It had Royal Post on it, a couple pictures of Queen Elizabeth. Really cool to get that thing into my hands, knowing that it came from England. It didn't sit in, some Holiday Inn um, dusty ballroom, going in and out of a car for the last 10 years or 20 years, trying to get somebody to sell it to one of us Yankees. I bought it from, thing just smells English still. So it smells like brown sauce. So I'm happy to have that. World of Sport, Flick Cards. I got my set. I suggest you go get your set. That's about it. So, with that said, thank you for joining me this week in my journey back in time. If you have a comment or suggestion, perhaps you have a set from the 1970s you'd like to hear more about, reach out to me at that70scardShow@gmail.com. That 70s Card Show on YouTube or 70s Card on Twitter. I love reading your comments. I love the thumbs up you guys give me. I'm not begging you for thumbs up, but I really do appreciate it. I see what you guys do there, and thank you so much for supporting my little tiny little show. So that's that. On the podcast, we're being played off by the late Mango Safari, and just want to tell everybody, don't forget to enjoy your collecting, enjoy your collection. Be safe. I look forward to seeing and speaking to each and every one of you next week.